Hello. I think I'm going to get right to it. Like me, along with I think a whole bunch of people. I was watching MSN Now, Nicole Wallace, and she had a panel of men, uh, one black man and two. One was the mayor. The other man, the black man I know is, but I can't remember his name at the moment because, and then there was a third man. And what she said is that she can't stop feeling angry and sad. And I wholeheartedly agree. Um, I vacillate between those two emotions, and sometimes I'm feeling them simultaneously. And I'm a therapist, so I'm also holding space for other folks who are feeling that. And I think the thing that is troubling, so the black gentleman on the show said that, what we keep hearing as black people in this country from white folks, well-meaning white folks, is that this is not who we are as a country. And black people know that that is exactly who we are as a country. And I think even well-meaning white folks, advocates, people who see themselves as connected and, allies, which I hate that word, allies and friends and all of that, they continue to espouse this ideology about America that is not true and has never been true for descendants of enslaved people on this land. And as the black gentleman was saying, that is at the crux of everything that is happening. One of the white men said, well, he has to take, an opposing view of that because not all people are like that. We see, like the counselor we showed the video of, and, there are people who are helping. And this is at the root of the problem. This is at the root of the problem. This discomfort, this internal discomfort with hearing the truth about what this country is, and that it has not, and even for the white people who are not living through what black people have in this country has not been great for them either, because what the country has done by not addressing what we will call this original sin, it has painted them into a corner. And I find that the people who are adverse to hearing what this man is saying, the white people who are adverse to hearing that, are the people who are holding something that is keeping the country in this place. They're holding something that they have not addressed themselves. And I think, when people say, people feel like I have no racist views because I don't say nigger, right? These are those same people who are not comfortable maybe with black people having power or being wealthier than someone in their family, or, they're holding those kinds of things, who tell themselves that black people are violent by and large, even though I won't go there, right? So those people who start to glitch when they hear that, these are the people who are the problem. I saw a video of someone talking to a white woman who had just voted in the Texas Senate race, right, to decide what the candidate would be. Would it be Jasmine Crockett or this Tallarico person? And it was a white woman, and she said, I love Jasmine. I really do love Jasmine. And she's a fighter. I know she's a fighter, but I had to vote for James Tallarico because I just felt like we needed somebody who could win. But I love Jasmine, and I know she's a fighter. But what you did was you went into the voting booth and voted again for another white man. It's been white men across the board in this country. Meanwhile, right? Meanwhile, black women have been the ones who have been bailing folks out. They're the ones who are telling you what is happening and what is coming. They are the ones you're telling your children to run up to if they're lost in a store. But when you go into a place to put those people who have a wealth of information about how to move forward in this country, when you go inside the voting booth, you say, I can't do it. And this is a person who does not see themselves as holding anything racist internally, I guarantee you. So that's one point that I want to make until everybody can deal internally with how they are holding race, and specifically black and white race in this country. We are doomed, because every time there's internal discomfort, people are defending rather than sitting with, rather than exploring, rather than being curious about, rather than uprooting, right? They are moving into defense. Not all of us, but here's the truth. All of us, me and everybody else, we are holding internalized patriarchy, misogyny, white supremacy. You cannot be born and bred in this country without holding that internally. You know, are people fighting against that when it shows up? Some people, yes. But you cannot sit anywhere if you are descendants of enslaved people, descendants of enslavers, and descendants of abolitionists in this country, and say, I don't see color. You can't, because all of us are holding some of that internally, because it was in the water. It was bred in us, beat in us, hung in us, televised to us, passed down through the generations. So you can't say that that is not true for you, because it's true for all of us. And even the people who come over here from other countries, they are immediately indoctrinated into anti-Black sentiment. And whether or not they go along with that, that's, you know, their household, but you are immediately indoctrinated in choosing a side. And a lot of times they choose being white, because who wouldn't? They see what's happening to us. So, right, so that's one piece of this puzzle. The other one is I'm always thinking about epigenetics and how we typically are talking about it in terms of descendants of enslaved Black people on the planet, and we are not talking enough about the descendants of enslavers and what that means for their lineage. And so I think about epigenetics of, yes, an environment changing a gene, that gene being passed down. But the thing that we leave out is that the environment has to be conducive for the lineage of that person or that gene exchange or passed down. The environment still has to be fertile for that gene to turn on in the descendants. And I think in this country, the reason that it looks the way it does, the reason we have people at the highest levels of government making decisions about wanting to go back to as close as they can get to slavery, I would say back to that kind of system is the goal here, and let no one be fooled about anything that's going on here except that that's what it is. Is because the environment in this country has always been ripe for this kind of sentiment to continue. There's never been an acknowledging, an atonement, and a plan to move forward to incorporate the descendants of enslaved people as humans on this planet, on this soil, the United States soil. And so I think about that when we're talking about epigenetics, the gene for these people over the course of a long lineage of people has been ripe for them to maintain this level of evil, sinister, diabolical, immoral, evil behavior against Black bodies. And so it has continued. and it has been handed down, and the gene has been turned on over and over and over again because the soil, the environment has always been right for that to happen in this country. And I don't want to say that without saying that there are descendants of abolitionists. There are white people who live on this land who are the descendants of abolitionists as well. And so I'm not saying every single person, every single white person is that, because their gene pool has probably been right too, I would imagine, right? Some of those folks not, and some of them are. But we are being disingenuous and harmful to the trajectory of where this country goes if we do not admit the original sin that has allowed us to be where we are now. No acknowledgement, no atonement, and no plan to move forward in this country in a different way. That's why you have 75 million people going into a voting booth and voting for slavery, for harm to come to Black people. I just needed to say that. I felt just frustrated by constantly hearing, not all, right? Not all, when the truth is, yes, all of us, all of us, all of us, not to the same degree, but all of us have internalized patriarchy, have internalized misogyny, have internalized white supremacy, all of us. And we have to fight through that if we have been born and bred on this soil, because it is literally the only thing that is consistently taught, learned, normalized, socialized. It's the only thing. So for anyone to say, I don't have that, there's nothing, it's not true. It just simply is not true. And I want us to stop saying that, because how do we move forward if you won't even acknowledge, if you will not acknowledge that this is something that we're struggling with individually and as a country?